this. Yeah. So you are able to see the screen? So you are able to see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we started, you see, last week our course itself. Okay, so we have discussed all the basic things like, you know, what is the syllabus of this course, what we are going to teach, and you know, the textbooks, then you know, the code books, whatever we will be using in this course, then the grading patterns, say how the grades are going to, you know, we are going to evaluate your assignments, tutorials, and exams. And then finally, I think last class we have already said what do you mean by design, like dimensioning, invention, and all those things we discussed. And what is the process? How do we do the design? You know, in this one. Then finally, you see why we have to use this steel as a building material. So this is what we were discussing in our last class. Okay. So finally, so now we said, you know, so the main reason was, you know, that is like a broad thing, because iron is the fifth abundant element, fifth or sixth something in the entire universe or in this one. So, you know, so this is, it is abundant material. So it is advantageous to use this material for, you know, many other purposes itself. Okay. And even in our earth, so 32% comes is iron itself. And then you know, we have seen the historical things also, I told you. But as already I told you, in India we don't see much steel construction in temples, because our Agama Shastras and others say they rate steel as impure material, this iron. So people use copper, bronze, you know, other things, and of course the soil, rocks, and other things for construction. But steel is given a iron or steel is given a very low priority in our olden days. But now things are fine. So I showed you all these things also, the historical things, Dar pillar, then Kodachadri pillar in Karnataka. So where you know, these old structures are there. And then we have also said that iron has very little mechanical strength by its own nature. So the advantage is if you add carbon, say, then you know, the strength gets increased. So more carbon means more strength, but you know, if you want something, you have to lose something. So ductility goes away. So what we do is you have to do a balance between ductility and then, you know, the strength. So our structural steel means 0.12 to 0.25%. And then we have also said nowadays, you know, people are adding many materials, not only just carbon, other kind of materials to increase the strength and ductility, and you know, and so many things itself. So this is what we said in our last class, and how steel is prepared in the, you know, the factories and other things. And I has already told you there are some nice videos are there in YouTube, so you can watch, and then you know, you can find out how steel gets manufactured in practice. Then metallurgical terms we have said, and finally I told you the most important things for us is pearlite and then ferrite. Okay, so this is what the different phases also we discussed. And finally, say the steel definition is, you know, if you do in microstructures, pearlite and pearlite. So this gives you strength and this gives you ductility. Okay, so two things will be there itself. So you can roll it into variety of shapes, and this was one famous formula also. We told a metallurgical formula, where you know, if you want increased strength, say now you know how to increase the strength of steel by these metallurgical things. So D is this grain size diameter. So the cooling, alloying, you know, so that makes a lot of difference. So anyway, this metallurgy, you know, it is a separate subject itself. If you know this much, it is sufficient as far as this course is concerned. Okay. So cast iron, wrought iron, this also we discussed in our last class. And this is our mild steel, which you will be using. So up to 0.1, this is what is used, widely used in the construction. But other steels also are there, where the mechanical, electrical, you know, other people, they use, you know, variety of these things itself. And this is our steel finally. So we will be using Fe 410, A, B, C, and Fe 440. So this is what is manufactured right now in India in all the factories like Tata Steel, JSW Steel, and many other companies are there. And you should know this carbon equivalent also. So this tells you how much you have added the other extra materials in steel to increase its strength. So in our India, say carbon equivalent is almost, you know, 0.42. So this is how, you know, the definition of steel itself. Can anybody tell me what is 410? What is this 410 or 440, 540, 590? No. So this corresponds to what?
Ultimate tensile.
Ultimate, and be careful, as I already told you, right? It is not yield strength, okay? It is ultimate tensile strength of steel, okay? So stainless steel also we have seen. Now we will not be discussing stainless steel in this course, but nowadays, you know, the future, if you see, what is the advantage of stainless steel? So you can see ultimate tensile strength is very high, 515 you have. Previous case it was 410 like that, okay? And the main advantage of stainless steel, so we add chromium and nickel say, okay? So what is the advantage? So what happens when you add this chromium and nickel in steel? Now what is the main advantage? Strength gets increased. Apart from that, what extra thing you will get?
No rusting.
No rusting. Okay, why no rusting? Because of this chromium and then nickel. Okay, so we have this Salem, you know, Salem steel. You see, we use, and this steel is widely used in cooking and other things. But now you know, you can use it even in building construction also. So as I told you, right, our Indian companies are also, you know, they are looking for a stainless steel code. Okay, a separate code how to design a stainless steel buildings also. Now, coming to advantages of steel, this is one we have said, high strength per you know, the unit weight. So I have shown you when you compare with concrete and wood, say. So our mild steel, you know, these are the parameters. Okay. Then finally, you know, we went for this ductility, and then I showed you this test. Okay, the stress strain curve of you know, the mild steel. So we have even watched a YouTube. You followed, right, the video itself. Okay. And now here, last class we discussed what is this portion corresponds to this region. That is a plastic only, because you have crossed the yield strength. So if you see this phenomenon, so you will see this type of, you know, if you zoom this portion, okay, so you will see some small variations like this in the stress strain curve. So what are these variations known as? Last class I introduced you that you know, the word. What is that word?
Loaders.
Luders bands. Okay, you would have studied even in your mechanics of materials also, because it's a fundamental thing itself. So what is a Luder band? So now what Luder band, you know, what it happens is, you know, when you, this is how you do the tensile strength of tensile test, say. Okay, so when you do this tensile strength, so what happens is, you know, because at this portion stresses will be high, so you will see these type of bands here actually. So you can see the angle. So these all these bands say. So this angle will be somewhere, you know, 45, something like, you see, 50 degrees or 45 to 55 degrees. You will see these type of bands itself. And the definition of Luder band is nothing but it is like a region which you know, demarcates yielding and you know, the yielding portion and unyielded portion. Okay, so it demarcates this section here. So this portion has yielded, whereas this portion has not, you know, the yielded in this place itself. So this is how the yielding starts in steel. Now, can anybody tell me why this Luder's band will be at 45 degrees approximately? Why they occur like this? The failure. So you have a specimen. It is subjected to tensile, you know, this axial force. So we have this P here, then P here. And the failure is basically like this type of failure you are getting. Okay, so these are the yielding bands, you know, which are coming like this actual. So why it is like this? What is the speciality of 45 degrees?
It is the failure plane at which maximum shear occurs.
What is, okay, that is a ductile failure. Why it occurs 45 degrees? No, 45 degree, what is the reason, you know? So what you told is correct, that answer, that failure plane, that is perfectly fine. So why it, what is this magic number 45? How it comes up?
Sir, during this plane there is maximum tensile strength, like shear force is maximum.
No, shear force. No, how you will tell us? Like, you know, I want a specific answer. See, why failure plane are yielding this one? So why it is like this, you know? What you people are telling is correct only, but what is the specific answer for
horizontal plane is the principal plane.
Horizontal plane is a tensile plane, but why 45 degrees, you know?
It's a principal plane because there is no shear in the horizontal plane.
There is no shear in the horizontal plane, but where is shear?
So shear strength depends on sine 2 theta, and sine 2 theta is maximum at theta equal to 45 degrees.
Oh, okay, very good. So I think you are coming from formula, but easy way is you draw Mohr circle. Say, what is the Mohr circle for this? So you have that stress block, no? So these are the stresses, sigma, sigma. This side sigma is 0 actual because it is a uniaxial tension, no? So this is 0, you followed it, this plane. So we have sigma, sigma, same as this itself. And if you draw the Mohr circle, so one principal, already it is a principal plane. One principal plane will be here, other one is anyway, you followed, right? So the circle will be, you know, something like this, okay? So if this is a circle, say, so now at 45 it is 90 degrees, okay? So you this maximum shear, you know, occurs sigma by 2 or whatever, you know, the number itself. So if it is Mohr circle, if it is 90, say, what will be in reality? See, Mohr circle if angle is 90, say,
half of it.
that is half actual. So 90 means it because 2 theta you have, right, in all those formulas. So 2 theta and theta by 2. So 90 means 90 by 2 is 45 degrees. So that is how, you know, this 45 degrees, you see, comes into picture itself. Okay. Of course, in experiments, it will not be exactly 45. So you will have some variations like 45 to 55, you know, this Luder bands comes. So the definition of Luder band is, you know, so this side of the band, you will have a yielded portion. Other side, it will be unyielding portion itself. Okay. This is a very, and this happens only in mild steel, that is in the low carbon steels. Okay, so this is a very special, you know, if it is high carbon steel, say, then you will not see these type of Luder bands. And as already I told you, right, when it is a high carbon steel, say, why you don't see these Luder bands?
It will be more brittle.
It will be more brittle. It is like your concrete, you know, the kind of things. Brittle failure. Here you will see ductile, you know, the failure itself. So there are some videos also are there in YouTube. I will just, you know, show you. Now, where is this? No. So you are able to see this one?
Yes, sir.
No. So this is like, you know, a nice YouTube video where you can see this Luder bands, how they form actually. Okay. So this is a specimen, exactly coupon test, they say in you know, our terminology. So you take a small steel coupon, say, and then say that gauge length, you know, 5.65 times root of A0, you know, and you apply this one. So you can see how the Luder bands, you know, form as you keep on increasing the strength itself. So you can see how, you know, this, things are getting formed. See, he is increasing the load. So once the load is getting increased, say, okay. So you are able to see here. So how this band is moving slowly here. See, here it is, you know, this portion has yielded, but whereas here it is, you know, unyielded portion. So as you keep on increasing the load, say, slowly you follow it, everything is coming into yielding, you know, this itself. So this is what, you know, we call as, you see, the Luder's band. So here also you can see that 45 degree or 50 degree that angle. So it's slowly yielding has happened, the entire, you know, the specimen itself. So this is how you see the Luder's bands, say, they look like when you do this, you know, the experiments. Now, and I think he will show you the specimen also. So you can see how things are, you know, Luder bands is how they are forming and how they are going up. So you can see this is how the specimen, you know, looks like. You are able to see, right, these type of, it will not exactly 45, but you will see, you know, these type of things, you know, in when you do the test itself. Okay. Now. All right, so now you are able to see the PPT, right?
Yes, sir.
No, okay. So this is how the Luder bands, you see, comes into picture, but this happens only in low carbon steels, and high carbon you will not see these type of phenomena. Okay. Now. So this is what the Luder's band. So you will see, of course, once it has crossed the elastic range, we have gone to plastic range. So this variations, say, whatever you see in this region, This essentially is basically due to this Luder's bands. So once after this, your strain hardening increases and it goes away. Now if you are having high strength steel say, so there will be no Luder's band. You can see here. So it just goes like this, and then it becomes this type of the thing you will see for continuous yielding or for high carbon, the high strength steels itself. All these, so anyway, we are discussing mild steel only, so where Luder's bands and other things will be there. So now all of from the stress strain curve say we have several points are there, like point A, that is a limit of the proportionality. Then we have B, that is elastic limit. Then we have the higher upper yield point. Then we have lower the yield point. Then we have this point D, where the strain hardening say it starts. So DE we call as a strain hardening portion here. Then this is the ultimate, the tensile strength comes here, and finally necking starts from EF actually, okay, and then finally it breaks. So this is the final the stress itself, where your specimen completely becomes two pieces, it just breaks itself. So this anyway you would have studied in your previously also. So these are all variety of points which you can identify in the this stress strain curve of the mild steel itself. So now this is how so now if you take a mild steel say, that's already told low carbon steel, so you will see this type of a plateau because of Luder's bands or plastic. This plateau comes into picture here. Then it goes like this, and finally it comes back. If you see high strength steel say, as already we told you, it's has pointed out very high strength, but no ductility, or you will see this type of failure itself. So when you compare mild steel say, so all of you should remember these numbers, okay. So for mild steel say, whatever we will be using in this course or whatever you are going to use it in the construction. So now this point B, that is this one, so where it goes into plastic range say. So this strain is 0.0012. So this number all of you should be able to remember, okay. And then this yield plateau say, where strain hardening starts. So this is almost 10 times of the 0.0012. So this will be 0.012. So this is the place where the strain hardening starts, this point. And then the ultimate tensile strength say, you will observe these are not like exact numbers, but more or less close that, okay. So you will observe this ultimate tensile strength at 0.15. So this also very, very important thing itself. And finally the breaking say, so this E whatever is there, so this happens at this 0.23. So these are very, very important the numbers. So 0.0012, then 0.012, 0.15, and then you see this 0.23 itself, okay. So this is where it goes into plastic range, where strain hardening starts and where it breaks itself. So now when I compare high strength steel and mild steel say, so strength of high strength steel is very, very high, okay. But for mild steel, what is higher here? Now ultimate tensile strength is small, but what is more than high strength steel? So when you look at these two figures, say, okay, so what is the advantage of mild steel?
It is more ductile.
It is more ductile. So how do you find out ductility? How do you say that word ductility from this graph?
It can take on more
Can
strain.
take more strain.
It can take more strain, okay. So that is why you see mild steel, that is the advantage, okay. These are anyway, this you would have studied in your mechanics also. So these idealized curve. So generally you would have seen, right, the previously when you test a specimen say, you will not see that type of behavior. You will see this type of irregular, and then it goes away. This is how the test results looks like, okay. But generally in practice for idealization, we draw the curve, something like this, okay. So we will we will remove this portion also. Sometimes it will be very, very smooth, but we assume it to be like a bilinear, the curve itself. So this is how the stress strain curve of a steel we take, it's like idealized case itself. And you can see, so this will be epsilon y, then, if at this place, 2 times epsilon y, 12 times epsilon y, 185 times epsilon y. So these are all, the numbers, approximate numbers itself. But if you remember these things, that is sufficient. 0.0012, 0.012, 0.15, and 0.23. Okay. So now here also there are words elastic, then constrained plastic flow, then unrestricted plastic flow from here to here itself. And then you see we say this is a plastic flow. These are very variety of names are there, like strain hardening, then sometimes you see plastic flow, unrestricted, constrained. So we use all these words to describe our the stress strain curve. And another advantage of steel is the metal properties. It has a very very tough actual. Okay, it has both strength and we have seen, and it has a ductility itself. Okay, so this is one famous test we do, that is notch toughness test, to find out how much tough is your steel itself. Okay, so you can see how this test is carried out in practice. I will just show you this video. You are able to see, right, this video. So you are able to see this video.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is a test. You can see. So you can see how he does the test itself. So this is basically calibration he is doing for the test. So once the test has been calibrated, so what they do before doing the test, they will put this notch actually, so that exactly it hits there. So now he releases that so you can see how it has hit the specimen. So finally here you will get energy. Okay. So this is a potential energy you have. It's automatically how much energy. So this they calculate the energy. Okay, you can see first specimen. Now he does now our mild steel, normalized steel. You can see his ductile the behavior. So this is how people carry out this test itself. Okay. Now if we go back to our PPT, yes. So now you are able to see the screen, right? Our slides.
Yes, sir.
So now you can see, right? So he drops a hammer. So he finds out, okay, so how much energy, these specimens are going to absorb. From that, they will tell us how much energy has been absorbed, that joules and other things, they give those type of things. Now from the stress strain curve, so how do we get energy? See, if I know the stress strain curve of steel cell like this, how do I find out energy? What type of energy will be there here during deformation? See, in mechanics of materials, you would have studied one energy will be there. So when you are doing this tensile strength or whatever, this stress strain curves when you plot. So if I want to find out energy, so how much energy has been released or how much work has been done, how do you find out? What is that energy term we use in mechanics?
Strain energy, sir.
Excellent. So what is strain energy? How do you calculate?
Sir, work done by tensile force, like.
No, from the stress strain curve. See, I am showing you the stress strain curve of steel. I want to find out strain energy. Tell me.
Area under the graph.
Area under the curve. Excellent. So it is just sigma you followed, right? D epsilon, that integral, that's all. So that itself gives you the strain energy. Okay. Now this test is also mostly based on energy. You have seen, right, that potential energy, how much it is getting transferred to the specimen. So this energy, say, anyway, you can get from the experiment, like 23 joules that video has shown you, right? Apart from that, if you know the stress strain curve of steel, say, you just compute the area, say, that itself will give you, this energy itself. So here in the energy also there are two things are there. One is the toughness and the resilience. So these are very two important words. Okay. So toughness means the whole area you followed, right? So the total energy, you can see both elastic and plastic. So the total energy. So this we call as the toughness. So the total area under the curve is known as toughness. How tough is your specimen? Okay. Now there is one more word, resilience. We will not be using that word in this course, but resilience nowadays, very, very popular kind of a thing. So what is meant by resilience? Can you see here? What is the resilience? Now what is resilience here? What is this? We have written there. So toughness means whole area. Now resilience means
elastic area.
Only the elastic. So what is meant by? So suppose if I say like resilience is very, very high for materials. So what does it tells you?
Yield strength is very high.
Yield strength is very high. Apart from that, the resilience of a material is very high, say. So its elastic strength will be high. So it means if something happens, it can go back to its original position also very easily. You followed it, the resilience. And I don't know how many of you heard nowadays in design, say, people are talking about resilience based design. Is a very, very powerful word. Okay, nowadays only it has entered all the you followed, right? So it tells you the resilience. This concept is elastic only. So it is, you can relate to our lives also. See, if something happens or some disaster happens, say, how strong you are, you follow, right? That is told by toughness and then resilience. And resilience is much more stronger than toughness, because if you say resilience, you will not even go into plastic range. It is like, if any disaster happens, say, like, for us, if you are getting some not bad grades or if life is going tough, but if you are come back to its original position, say, so your resilience is very, very high itself. Okay. So can you name any person whose resilience is very high? Resilience means if something happens to that fellow, say, he will come back to its original position, still he will continue as a normal human being for any disaster happens. See, so if you name a human being who has met all kinds of disasters, but still he continued as a normal person and he did the normal work. So I will give you a clue also. Resilience, this is not only for steel, even for human beings also, say. So there is one very famous physicist actually who passed away 2 years back. Generally, everybody says that he is a 100% resilience person. Who can you identify that physicist? I have given you clue also.
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking. Why? He is a resilience, that fellow.
Sir, he was handicapped when he was around 20.
So his whole handicapped leg, gig, nothing moves, but he didn't commit any, you followed, right? He didn't harm himself, some suicide or something, but still after that much disaster also, he continued not as a normal human being. His research, he has done much better research than all of us. You followed, right? He is a very popular physicist itself. So that's what we call as resilience. So resilience means it is not toughness means, once you have gone to plastic range, so you can't come back to its original position. Okay, so you will end up somewhere, suppose you have gone here and then you will end up here. You will not go back to the original position. But resilience, if we have, say, the highest thing is resilience. So you can go and then come back to its original position itself. So that's what resilience. This word came, and then now so it is applicable even for us also. How resilience you are, like in a disaster happens, you should go back to its original position. You should be able to switch your mind. If you are very tough, say, so then the area will be more than the mild steel, but you will not come back to the original position. Like you have seen, right, that mild steel specimen, say, 2 specimens I have shown you that video. So one specimen was high strength steel, so it just brittles, the area is very low. So like for example, this graph, say, if you find out the area under this graph, okay, that is for the mild steel, then for this steel, say, so the area under this graph actually, okay, so it will be less for high strength steel, but it will be more for the mild steel. So this is also one the mostly if you compare our steel with concrete, other things, say, they are very, very tough, strength and ductility. And please understand, so the toughness means area under the full stress strain curve. Resilience means only the elastic portion. Okay, so resilience is a very, very tough word, but toughness is fine. Okay, because you are expecting too much from the resilience. Then one more thing in steel also, of course, we will not be using this in our course itself. It has this Boschinger effect actually. Can anybody tell us what do you mean by this Boschinger? Have you heard this word previously? In your mechanics of materials or somewhere, have you heard this word? So what is this Boschinger effect? Tell me. You have not heard? This for the first time? So this Boschinger effect, say, have you heard, or this is the first time you are hearing now?
First time, sir.
Oh, okay. So anyway, it is also an interesting property, but this property is important for this dynamics. So when steel is subjected to fatigue loading and others, say, okay, so you will have like this, the stress strain curve, say, okay, so sigma versus epsilon. So it is subjected to fatigue, some cycles, okay, or stress reversals, we say, or load reversals or something like that. Okay, so where do you see this type of cyclic loading? No. It is a dynamic loading, but it is the load is applied, like this, the load. So it is something, like a sinusoid actually. So the amplitude is constant, the compression tensions, the negative and positive side amplitudes are same, but it is applicable in some kind of a cycle. So the load becomes plus P, then it becomes minus P, then plus P, minus P, plus P, like this. So your specimen will be subjected to tension, compression, tension, compression, compression, tension, compression, tension, like this it will get subjected. Now here what happens is, suppose you are in the elastic range only, say. So let us say you have loaded your specimen only up to elastic limit itself, and then if you release the specimen, say, it comes back to its original position. And let us say you are applying now minus P, that is in the other direction. If it is in the elastic region, so the curve will be, you see, like this itself. So O, A, something you followed, right? So this is an elastic, the region. So the curve will be, you see, like this. If it is an elastic region, okay. But let us say you have done, you have gone into, you see this, you suppose, the plastic region also, say, you have increased the tensile strength of the specimen. So it becomes, you see, it has gone into, the yielded portion or plastic you followed, right? The range it has gone. Now you bring it back to the original positions. If you unload the specimen, because it has already gone into the, the yielding, this one, it will not come back to its original position. It will come to some other, the position itself. So this happens. Now once it has come to this position, so now once again you are applying compression, because this, the load is getting reversed. So now what happens, the specimen you see goes like this, and suddenly after some points, it starts the yielding itself. Okay, and it becomes you followed it something, the like this itself. So now if you compare the yield strength, say, okay, in this portion and this portion, say, so this was the original yield strength. Now what has happened to this yield strength after the stress reversal? So tensile strength You have applied a tensile force, and then you have increased it, made the specimen to go into plastic this range also, and then you have released the specimen. So it has come back to this one. Now for the same deformed specimens, you have applied now compressive load actually. Okay, so compressive load when you apply, say, so now the yield compressive strength, it decreases actually. Okay, but if it is in elastic range, say you have applied only in elastic range and then come back to its origin, and this is a yield strength Fy, and then you release, specimen comes back to 0, and then you apply compressive strength, say. So specimen will go here. So this yield strength will be same actually. Fy only will be there. But once a specimen has gone into plastic range, and then you release it, and then you apply negative, this compressive strength, so it goes, the yield strength, you see, it reduces almost. And this happens in every cycle. Once again, you increase and then you follow, right? It goes, like this, and then you see, so it becomes, like this also sometimes. And each term, say, every time you go, right, so it decreases, you will see these type of, the loops itself. So this, what we call as the Boschinger effect. So now here, so once you have used the tensile strength of the material, say, so then, you are using something, you have to compensate. So the compressive strength of the material, it gets decreased actually, okay, at the expense of this one. So this we call as, this is a famous, Boschinger effect. So some German, I think, engineer, he got this phenomenon. So steel also exhibits, these type of thing, but this is very, very important for dynamic loads, essentially cyclic loads. Okay, where do you see cyclic loads in practice on steel structures? Now, what type of cyclic load means? Where do you see these type of loads? Machines. No, we are talking about our civil structure. So which machine you mean to say?
The steel bridges and all.
Steel bridges, excellent, because vehicles will be moving, dynamic, and the vehicle also will move with a constant velocities, right, that flyovers and others. So this dynamic load will be there. Apart from that, somebody told machines, suppose if your foundation is of steel, say, let us say you are hosting a turbine or something, power plant in your, structure. So but once it is rotating, say, that also will cause, this type of stress reversals, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative kind of a thing. Another thing, where do you see this type of cyclic loading? Apart from that, bridges, you have told, trains, railway tracks, you followed it, trains, the train loads essentially. So if you have a bridge and train is moving, say, then this becomes very, very important. But anyway, this comes for cyclic loads and dynamic loads. Okay, Boschinger effect itself. So Boschinger effect, as already I told you. So what is the Boschinger effect? So the increase in yield strength of the material. Okay, this occurs at the expense of the compressive yield strength. So this is the definition of the Boschinger effect. So I have drawn the same thing. See, like here you have gone. This is a sigma s. So compression tension, it will be same in elastic ring. But if you have used the increase in tensile yield strength, so it decreases your the sigma dash of s itself. So this we call as the Boschinger effect itself. Okay, this is a very, very important thing for structures. But of course, this is only applicable for cyclic loadings. Bridges, when you are designing, you follow, right? This is a very, very important thing. And now another advantage of steel, say, we have seen the material properties, like we have seen, yield strength, ultimate tensile strength, ductility is there. Then that toughness is there. Then that resilience is there. Then this Boschinger effect is there. Like that, you can derive many metal properties. Apart from that, the main advantage of steel is being you can carry steel actually. Okay, you would have seen, right, all these kinds of lorries. So you can see this is a plate girder. This you can easily transport. Okay. So in vehicles, you would have seen on the highways also, they would have be taking, I sections, variety of this one. So you can transport and you can, cast, and then you can do. So this is the advantage of steel itself. And I don't know how many of faster construction also steel is much useful. Have you all of you have heard about this thing, this startup which your seniors have done in our research park? Any of you have idea about this one? Medicab. Have you any of you heard this?
No, sir.
Your seniors only did. You understand? You are maybe 2-3 seniors. So they this medic. You remember this COVID time? This was very useful because people want to do emergency, right? You have to construct the hospitals or the modular housing actual. So this was done by our own IIT people, your own seniors. They have made this Medicab in Wayanad in Kerala. No, it came in news also. You follow Times of India, many news. So they developed this with our steel design only. So with this course only they were able to design this one. Of course, there are little bit composite things are there. So it was like, you can construct a hospital within one day, this quarantine center or something. So that is the advantage of steel itself. So this is a faster construction. So this was done by your own seniors. You can Google it and you will get, it became very popular because of this COVID, because it can be installed very fast, and it has been done in Kerala. Okay, I think many places they have adopted this type of the construction also. Okay, and then what another advantage of steel say? Of course, steel has the highest the scrap value. So steel there is nothing to lose. If the steel you can sell it, and they once again they melt it and make once again the steel itself. So this is something like I'm just downloaded from melting scrap say the steel price actual. Okay, at Mandi market, Bhopal, Delhi, you can find out how much is the steel. Jaipur you can see 27,000. This is the price actual, how much the scrap value of steel itself. So you can recycle it, and then you can do whatever you like. Okay, that is also another advantage of steel itself. And now coming to the disadvantage of steel, so the most main disadvantage of steel is this rust actual. Okay, and why rust happens? Now, for what type of steel you will see this type of rust?
Mild steel.
No, mild steel, because of that carbon, right? That carbon. But if it is stainless steel, see the stainless steels which you are using in your cooking and others, in your houses. So whether rusting happens?
No, sir.
No, because it is stainless, because you added chromium and nickel. But since stainless steel is very expensive, that's why we go for mild steel. So this is the most important thing for disadvantage. So generally what people do is, they do all kinds of this, coatings are there nowadays. People have come up with coatings where, you can increase its fire resistance. And this, what the main advantage, why it happens is, so as already I told you, steel means you have ferrite and pearlite. So pearlite gives you the strength, ferrite gives you the ductility. But when steel is subjected to fire, say, so this pearlite gets burnt actually. This is the one which gives strength to steel actually. So this goes away, and finally you see it becomes you follow, right? The strength decreases. So this is a graph. So steel, when it is 500 degrees approximately somewhere here, you can see the yield strength of steel is almost 50%. So if it is a 250, say the yield strength, when it is subjected to 500 degrees centigrade, its yield strength will be 125 only. And 1000 degrees or 900 degrees gone, your steel completely you followed, right? No strength, for the steel. It's a very, very, the disadvantage of steel structures when subjected to high, the temperature. So these people are doing research, how to develop a coating, how to increase this strength itself. So this is for the American steels. Okay, A514, A558. So these were manufactured in America. Our IS will be FE like that we write. So there also this graph 1000 degrees say. So you can see the strength is of course they have given in Fahrenheit. Okay, so 60% the strength automatically goes down. Now another and the main disadvantage of steel is this corrosion actually. Okay, this is also very, very headache actually for steel structures. Now, what is meant by corrosion? So I have given here. So when you have iron, say, when it is subjected to air, so oxygen will be there in the air, and moisture, say, that is our water. So when all these three combine, so you will have some kind of a chemical reaction. So you get this rust itself. So rust meaning is hydrated ferric oxide, they say. Okay. So this rust is a very big thing for steel structures also. So right, one people say in our 1 cup of steel, say, if you have 1 cup of steel. Okay, and then if it rusts, say, so you will get 6 cups of rust. The volume increase also happens. You followed. So 1 cup of steel will give you followed 6 cups of the rust itself. So you would have seen, right, in your houses also, if the steel bars inside your concrete, say, if they corrode the inside steel bars, so you will see that whole portion, you see it expands, because 1 cup will give you 6 cups of steel, and then we have all these type of problems itself. So how to avoid corrosion is a big research area. People are working hard, like some zinc coating. So they are developing actually. Okay, so how to reduce this rust in our things, and sometimes in our design also say we also do like this. Like suppose if I have a channel section like this, instead of exposing it to the atmosphere, you can do like this actually. Okay, like this type of angle section. So you can make it like this to avoid this corrosion itself. So there are so many techniques are there to avoid this corrosion itself. And another most important thing still is whenever there is a sharp change, say like if I have a T section, I section, the sharp edges. Okay, so wherever if the sharp edges are there, then these places steel loses its ductility and things becomes more the brittle kind of a thing. Suppose if I have a smooth this one, like in our IS all the steel we use this smoothing actually, then there will be no sudden thing itself. So here this will be ductile, but if you have sharp edges, there is a chance that the steel may lose its ductility and it may become brittle, and failures happens at these junctions itself. So this is also one disadvantage for steel itself. That's why when you are joining I section with other things, angle sections, you should follow these type of smooth kind of things, so smooth transitions. Thing already I told you, the fatigue, this one, that is a cyclic loading. So this also steel, some disadvantage is there. So there are some endurance limit and other things are there, like how stress decreases, say, with the cycles to failure. So if you see this curve, so when it is applied to low cycle fatigue, say low cycle means like this, low slowly this load is getting applied. Then high cycle means the load is becoming like this, very very fast. Okay, so steel behaves in a different fashion. Low cycle means something, then high cycle means something itself. So this also one disadvantage, that fatigue this happens, and this type of, but this is you will observe only for dynamic loads, not for the static loads. So the finally you see, so I have told you the advantages and disadvantages also. But anyway, whether advantage or disadvantage, in this course you are going to study steel design only. Okay, so finally these are the material properties which we are going to use in all our designs. So these material properties for the steel which is used in construction, say it is available in our IS 800. So if you open the code book, I have sent you in WhatsApp. Okay, so if you open the code book, so they will give you these properties you have to assume. So in the tomorrow exams or whenever you are doing some things, I will not give these metal properties. We say you design just a steel I-beam or something like that. So you have to assume that unit mass is this much, Young's modulus, all those things, this is which is given in our IS code. So this itself we should use and solve all the design problems itself. Okay. So anyway, so I think time is up. So I will stop here. So we will continue in our tomorrow's class. So if any of you have any questions, you can ask me. So if we don't have any questions, we can So Dheeraj, what is this? Suffered with ALS. I didn't understand. Dheeraj is there? So there are no questions. So if there are no questions, we will close our class. So we'll meet tomorrow. Okay. Fine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Oh, ALS. Okay. Stephen Hawking. Okay. Thank you. I think Sundar Baba. Fine.
Hello, sir.
Tell me.
Sir, I did not get any meeting link before the class.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I think in WhatsApp you are there, right?
Yeah, sir. In WhatsApp.
Okay, I will share it from tomorrow in WhatsApp also the link. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.